In today's video, we're taking a look at the Twilight Masquerade format. We're going to make some predictions, take a look at what decks are winning. Over in Japan, take a look at some of the lists, some of those decks you need to be aware of going into the new format. As always, let me know your comments, predictions, anything down below of the decks you've been playing or stuff you've seen in Twilight Masquerade and excited to play. I will also say this video is sponsored, so you will find a link in the comments below. Nice cool shirt we've got on here, but we'll explain that into the AM shortly. So here's the tier list we're going to be using. A few of these decks I've not really seen anything about, like Arbok and Fair Stamp. In theory, it's a nasty combination. It's not really shown any results. Taking a look through, some are interesting, some we probably won't rank, but we'll take a look at those shortly. Let's start with the most popular deck in format, Dragapult. Now this one obviously S tier. It is going to be the best deck in format. I do think it's maybe slightly overhyped, or it's not going to be played the way it's currently played. I think there's going to be a better way. Maybe we'll get something in an upcoming set. But for right now, I think it goes into S tier. This is currently the most common way to play Dragapult. Going heavy into the Dracoke line, going into something like the Evolution. We have seen Lance appear in a few lists. It doesn't seem like it's the most popular currently. But basically, you want to Evo into these things and then slowly evolve up. Only running the 2 rare candy. So you can skip that Evolution later on. But early game, you're very much relying on your Dracokes to draw you cards. We've got Xatu to draw cards and accelerate energy, as that is the weak point for Dragapult. It needs a Psychic and a Fire, so it can be very difficult to get going. We have seen Mela creep into a few lists again to accelerate energy, and the ace spec of choice has normally been something like a Reset Stamp, Unfair Stamp, and Scoop Up Cyclone has been quite popular as well. So fairly standard list for this. We do see it played with Pidgeot, we do see it played with, we've seen it played with Fire stuff, we've seen a few different variations of the deck. But I think this is currently the most popular. As I say, I do think it is going to be the best deck in format. Is anything else going to go in S tier? Really? Probably not. I think the other... although, I don't know. I think some stuff will get into S tier, but we'll get into them as we come into it. But before that, let's hear a word from our sponsor, Into the AM. Into the AM is a men's apparel brand that focuses on creativity with some very unique designs on their shirts, as well as comfort at the top of the list. I'm currently wearing one, and the only thing I can say is it fits in the places you want it to fit. So around the arms, shoulders, it's a tighter fit, but around the body area, the chest, slightly looser so it feels comfortable to wear. If you want to support the channel but also pick up, like I say, some nice clothing, comfortable clothing with some really cool designs, you can also get basic tees. There's button-ups, polos, a ton of different stuff. You can use the code WoodyRec, or you can click the link down below to get a 10% discount on your order, which massively helps out me, but hopefully helps out you and your wardrobe. Let's get back into the tier list. Other than Dragapult, let's work through the list here then. So like I said, very fun idea, very clever idea, combos well, but I don't think it's going to be the deck we think it is. It's literally a one-off play. If you draw out of it, you probably just lose as this deck. I would say don't play Arbok, don't play Unfair Stamp, unless you're playing it to like a league challenge or something, a league cup, and then I think it's fine. Dialga is in a really interesting spot at the moment. We can take a quick look at Andrew Hedrick's list from Indianapolis. This is how it's played currently. I don't know if much, if anything, is really going to change for this deck going into the new format. Obviously, matchups and stuff will change. But how it plays, I think, is fairly standardized, even in the upcoming set. This is a really difficult one to place. I would say it's probably like tier 2, maybe tier 1 at the minute. Tier 1's probably stretching it. Let's go... I'm going to go tier 3. We've not really seen it appear anywhere. We're yet to see it have much impact in the upcoming format, so we're going to put it in tier 3 for now. Apologies to all you Dialga lovers out there. Let's take a look at Blissey then. That's been a really interesting one. We've seen it played with Monkey Dory. We've seen it in Firebox with like Heatran and Moltres and stuff. We've seen it played with a ton of stuff. We've seen it with Palkia, just any way to accelerate energy, so you can then move them around via Blissey. We've seen it with Ogerpon, we've seen it with Frostlass. There's so many different ways to play this deck. Let's take a look at a few here. So this is the Monkey Dory Frostlass version. Obviously not heavy into the Frostlass. We are damaging ourselves, but then we can throw that damage over onto our opponent with Monkey Dory. A few ways to recycle our Chansey. So we've got the Sharon's Care in here. Make them slightly more tanky with stuff like Rigid Band and Hero's Cape. Normally you're accelerating early with Turbo Energize. This deck list is fairly standard for Blissey. Like I say, there's a few ways to play it though, so let's quickly take a look at another one here. We have seen Arceus be quite popular recently. I don't really know if it's the way, but this goes slightly more control. You've got the double enhanced hammer, You've got the Judge, you've got Water Set. I guess that's the combat Dragapult. Some interesting text in this list. Like I say, there's so many ways to play it. I do like the Mist Energy. You're trying to play like a tanky Blissey deck, so you probably don't want to get knocked out too often. Normally we just see Monkey Dory as the go-to. We do see stuff like the A-Spec change. This one basically means you can't be one-shot, which is probably slightly better than Hero's Cape. Either way, you can reuse it with stuff like Sharon's. The one-off Hooper is interesting and probably good if Blissey becomes a deck, as it's great in the mirror. Also good into Arceus and stuff like that. So where would we put Blissey? It's so early to say, and it's a new deck, so it's going to be one of the toughest ones to predict. I think it's probably tier 1. I think Monkey Dory makes it tier 1. It's such a tanky Pokemon. 300 HP for a stage 1 is insane. The ability is really good, able to move stuff around. The attack, having built-in consistency, is nice when you want to play other cards like Sharon's Care and stuff. You don't feel as bad. So yeah, I'm very excited to see how Blissey does. I'm going to put it in tier 1 for now. I think that's going to be a difficult one to place. Ursaluna, Fortress. That tactic never works, I don't think. So I'm just going to drop that and don't play. There's so many decks here that probably don't even need to be. Can I drag these back out? Yeah. I'll put the don't play decks that are sort of fringe around the area. I wouldn't even say these are decks people are considering. Let's go Arceus then. So we've got a few variants. The fire version, I think Giratina Arceus is just going to be the best version. Where it goes is difficult. It can reach Dragapult with maximum belt. It can't hit weakness, so it's not as good into that. I think it probably struggles into Blissey, so we're going to put that in tier 2. I think if we get one in each, it's sort of a good mark on where we go from there. Vulpix is going to be don't play. It's a good variation of Arceus, but it is very meta dependent. If Dragapult is the most popular deck, do not play this deck. There is no reason to be playing it. The fire version might have slightly more merit, especially if Dialga is powerful. So we're going to put that in tier 3 for now, I think. Charizard, both versions are going to end up... I don't think anyone's playing Bibarel currently. The Charizard probably moves. Not a lot of stuff added for Charizard. You can play the Monkey Dory. Obviously, able to move damage off Charizard, make it slightly tankier, which is working in its benefit. The thing is, if Dragapult is popular, if Lugia is popular, which I think they both are going to be, then this takes a massive drop. I think Control gets better, which means Charizard. All the best decks are good into Charizard is what I'm trying to say. I don't know if it's tier S or tier 1. It's so hard to say. I think just having the consistency of Pidgeot and just playing more games, I do think it's a lot more consistent than something like the Dragapult, which is relying on Dracloaks and Zatus to draw into cards you need, which isn't as good. That's a tough one. I'm going to put it... It's tier S currently by a mile. It's tier like 0 by itself. I'm going to put it tier S. We might move that one. We're not going to put the Bibarel on because it's not really played, like I said. This one's an interesting one, the Festival deck. I haven't had a chance to play it. I've not seen it appear in any City Leagues, in any Champions Leagues, in anything over in Japan, honestly. I'm not really sure what's holding it back. I think it could be quite interesting. I don't know. If Charizard's here, it's not going to be played at all. I think one of the benefits is being a grass Pokemon and taking those big knockouts into something like Charizard. It just needs so much to do it. You need the Thwackey in play, you need the Stadium, then you need a maximum belt, and then a modifier like I think it's Kieran, the new card. It just needs a lot to get going. So I think it's going to have to be a tier 3. I would love to be proven wrong by this. I'm going to say, like, again, it's a new deck. I can't be sure. These are my predictions. If you disagree with any, let me know in the comments below. But yeah, I can't see it being above like a tier 3, honestly. Maybe it's... I'm going to go tier 3. Frostlass by itself is a little tricky, so I'm not going to rank that one. I think it's good in stuff like this next deck, Greninja. I think it's good in stuff like, even like Blissey, we've seen it appear in. So Greninja, let's take a look at some lists. Like I say, paired with Frostlass a lot of the time, this is a very interesting deck. It's even got the Hawlucha to finish some stuff off. It's got the Devo to make some big plays later on. I really like this deck. I hope it does well. Being a stage 2, it's very difficult. It doesn't have the consistency of something like, even like Dragapult has got built in with Dracloak. This has nothing. It's literally supporter cards to draw what you need. Other than that, you're struggling. So I think once you get hit with something like an Iono late game, you could be struggling to get back into it. Maybe having to take a turn off with like a Cleffa or a Rotom. It doesn't feel good. Obviously needing some of these things in play as well. You do damage your own stuff, which isn't great. The A-Spec is interesting. You could play this. You could play Unfair Stamp is pretty good. You could play Prime Catcher, obviously with the snipe potential of Greninja and the damage spread of Frostlass. That could be quite powerful. There's a few different aspects you could play. I do have a match against it on the channel, so if you want to go check that out, there will be some more coming with Greninja as well. Very interesting deck. Like I say, I hope it does well, but will it? I think it is at least a tier 2. There's so many good things it hits into. It hits into Blissey for weakness. It hits into Arceus. Pretty good anyway, because 170, find a card you need. Unless they Iona you, you're in a pretty good spot the following turn. I'm going to go tier 2. I hope Greninja's higher, but I just can't see it. Stage 2 is difficult, so unless you're doing something silly, which the deck really is, I think you just need a lot of other stuff to make it work, where something like Charizard is so self-sufficient, and Dragapult has some built-in consistency as well. Iron Thorns, that's the one. So we've seen this appear like once or twice. I think it is very much a gimmick deck. There's a lot of stuff it doesn't affect. Like if the best deck in format is Dragapult, I don't know why you would play this. I'm going to say don't play this. I think it is very similar to Vulpix. If you hit the right room and you find the right decks to play against, it could be devastating. Against stuff like Lugia, it's quite good, but even Lugia has ways around it. I just don't know if it's really the play. Let's take a look at, I'm guessing this is like Lost Box. We have seen this be very popular recently. It did quite well at the last regionals, came in 2nd place, and it had another top 8 spot, I think. I think after this set, it's going to be dead with that new card printed. I don't know where it goes currently. Maybe tier 2. These Lost Zone variants are really hard to place. I think if Charizard drops in popularity, Giratina probably does as well. Gudra itself is just... You probably just play Giratina if you want to play Lost Box or Lost Zone. I messed up. Play Giratina or play Box. Don't play Gudra. Gudra is very much good into certain formats, and it could be the format for Gudra. It's just never been as popular as something like Giratina. I'm going to put Giratina, I think with stuff like Frostlass and Greninja being popular, Dragapult spreading damage. Giratina is going to take a hit. I think Lost Zone is going to take a hit, probably enough to knock it down here, honestly. Maybe that means Arceus is slightly more prevalent, so we do see that version of it is powerful. I do think it's probably going to be the way playing it going forward. Zoroark, I mean, if they spread damage, you're powering up the Zoroark, but I still just don't think it's going to be the play, so we'll put that in don't play this. Luxray, I'm guessing this is Luxray Control. We've got 2 controls here. I'm just going to rank, I guess they're very different decks. Although, I feel like the Luxray is going to play the Pidgeot and some other stuff. It's not just going to be a Luxray. So let's just put Control in as 1. And I think Control is going to go up to S tier here. It's been round and about. I think Charizard is still going to be around, so it's going to have a good matchup into that. I think it just has good matchups into a lot of stuff near the top. Obviously, like the Chenpao, the Dragapult, I think they're both great matchups. We've got a lot of cards that are quite good coming up in the new format. We've got the Flute, some handy tools to move their energy around. We've got a lot of stuff that makes it a viable deck, and I think it's finally going to move up into S tier. I think Snorlax is different enough it gets its own. I don't know where, yeah, I think Luxray would just be played with stuff like this, though. I don't think it would just be a Luxray deck. Snorlax, I think, is going to be around, tier 1. I think that Flute really works in Snorlax's favor. I'm going to put it like here. We can move stuff around should we need to. Ogerpon, we've seen it played with stuff like Raging Bolt. Is Raging Bolt on here? Yes. I think the Ogerpon version is probably better than the Sandy Shocks. I do think it's still not going to be a top tier deck. So we're going to rank this Ogerpon as if it's with the Raging Bolt. Yeah, I'm definitely going to get this wrong because I have no idea where to put this. I've not played it yet. It's only just sort of appeared. So it's going to be a very interesting list and how it ends up. Let's take a quick look at one here. So it has won some city leagues. It's been very popular recently, picking up in popularity over in Japan. It just does a lot of stuff. You can actually tech in quite a lot of things as well. You could put the Cornerstone in for the basic fighting. Obviously, you got the Sandy Shocks to grab that back later. There's just so many more ways. You also draw cards via Ogerpon. So this could be the thing that makes Raging Bolt a good deck. And I do think it's sort of been on the edge. It's quite powerful into those bigger decks, taking easy knockouts into big Pokemon, whilst also being very tanky itself. Normally with the tools, which this deck doesn't play, 240 is quite hard to hit anyway. I mean, you need to knock out a Charizard before it can knock you out. Potentially with tools and stuff, that's not as true, but also you can attack with the Ogerpon, so the Charizard matchup's probably quite good. I mean, once you've got 3 energy on, they've got 2. It is a one-shot, so quite powerful into that. It's playing a lot quicker with the double Squawk. I think this is going to be really interesting. This is going to be the one I get so wrong. I'm going to go here. I'm going to go Raging Bolt tier 2. I'm going to put it at the very bottom. just to sort of edge my bets here. I feel like Giratina is probably going to drop. I feel like the Dragapult matchup is just so bad for Giratina. The Lost Zone version at least. Like those comp phase are getting absolutely shredded. I'll put this here for now. We will see. Espathra, don't play it. Charizard's dropping in popularity. Not many decks on here are relying on a ton of energy. Although saying that, Espathra is going to be insane into Dragapult. It struggles enough getting energy into play. I'm gonna have to put Espathra, put it around here. I'll put it. It's better than that. It's better than that. Honestly, if it's good into Dragapult, it's good into Charizard, or it should be. Oh, I don't know. I'm gonna put Espathra in here. I love the deck, but I just don't know. Gardevoir, I think, is probably tier 1. Terrible into Dragapult, but it's good into Zard, good into Blissey, good into what we got here. Great into Greninja, obviously hitting for weakness. Yeah, it's good into these decks. It's good into a few at the top. I'm going to put Gardevoir here. It's having a bit of a resurgence recently. It's still looking pretty good. Potentially could be the top of tier 2. Meowscarada, I'm going to say don't play. Chien-Pao, I think it's still got to be up here somewhere. Does it make tier S? I think it's just been on an absolute tear recently. It probably does. Or it should be like here at least. It's tough. It could potentially be up here. One of these 4 decks belong here. I just don't know which one it is. Roaring Moon. Where's this going? It can knock out Dragapult's easy. That's not much of a worry. The spread does mean it can then gust and take quite a lot of prizes. So let's go here for Roaring Moon. I think that's fine. Palafin, we've not seen anything of, so I'm going to have to say don't play. I think it's maybe just too awkward to actually get working. Goldengo, again, not one we've seen much of, especially in the next format. We've barely seen any. We constantly see like 1 or 2 players doing well with it, so I think it's got to be in a tier. It's just, yeah, I'm not sure which. It's probably got to be tier 3. There's no way it's tier 2. Lugia is... So this has been absolutely crushing. So much so that Miraidon's had a resurgence. So, yeah, one of these 3 decks needs to go here. We'll decide at the end which it's going to be. Miraidon is really good into Dragapult. It's good into Lugia. For that reason, it's probably got to be tier 2. In good conscience, I can't put it any higher. Let's move these around a little bit. Something like that, maybe. Potentially Greninja could be up here. Yeah, the order doesn't really matter. It's looking sort of like a block so far. I think the Firebox with Gouging Fire has got to be down here. We've not really seen it have the performance it needs to. Future, again, probably tier 2. I think Great Tusk is unfortunately down here. I would love for it to do better. We did see it in, I think it was Indianapolis, doing quite well, but I just don't think it's going to be anywhere up here, unfortunately. Looking at these last decks then, I guess it is just Ancient Box. Ancient Box, very, very different to this version, but I don't know enough about this deck. I've always just played the EX version, so I'm just going to class them as ranked the same. I think this is my tier list. Like I say, I feel like one of these 3 should go here. The Legacy Energy makes Lugia silly. Like, if it gets set up, it probably just wins. These 3, honestly, like, I actually don't hate doing something like that. And then I think maybe some of these come up to the top. Yeah, I think Chien-Pao takes a bigger hit into Dragapult, honestly. Although it has so many ways to take extra prizes. Lugia just, I feel like, beats anything when it's set up, so there's no way it can be S tier. The last time I got caught out with Lugia was the one deck that I couldn't place. We should probably take a look at a list. This is currently how it's played, so we see the Wellspring come in, we see Ursaluna, Iron Hands, the Legacy Energy making all of these Pokemon work. Also, Lumineon can attack now, so it can jump back in the deck. It's not much of a liability anymore. So we are free to play Metagoza again, not needing the collapse. I think stuff is just really coming together for this deck. It is very much, you either summon in star turn 2, maybe turn 3, or you just lose. So it is very much all or nothing, which, I don't know, it's very hard to rank a deck like that. Like, I thought it was going to be top tier last format because of the good matchup into Zard, but there's so many other rough matchups it just didn't have answers for. Now with Legacy Energy, it does, with the Wellspring, Iron Hands, very similar to something like Chien-Pao. It's able just to take some easy knockouts, take 2 prizes into just anything in the active. So I would say any of these 3 honestly could go up to here. Lugia hasn't had the increased inconsistency it needs, so it is still feels very much like a coin flip deck. I'm going to go for Blissey. Blissey Monkey Dory is going to be one of the best decks. It's a massive tanky Pokemon, although just as soon as I look at it, like, Lugia can one-shot it with Cinccino's. Chen Pao can one-shot it. At that point, it's not as deadly. The Monkey Dory really do need stuff like damage dropped. It depends how popular Dragapult is. I don't think it's going to be like the 25% we see of Charizard. It's very much going to be a split format, so it's going to be a lot harder to rank. I'm going to leave it like this. Let me know what you think of it in the comments below. Let me know any changes you would make. Like I said, massive thank you to Into the AM. Go check out below. Use the link. Use WoodyRec. If not, use the code. It does really help the channel and hopefully helps out you guys. Get some cheaper clothes. Most importantly though, some good fitting and comfortable clothes. That's all I've got for this episode. If you made it to this point in the video, thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you in the next one.